Professor Lilly, and welcome to travel reporting. Um, I'm using a different little configuration here because my fancy computer that Loyola has given me, the camera's not working. So, and therefore the fancy um, lecture recording and screen capturing software they have is no good. And so I'm actually using QuickTime, which I didn't think could do both video and screen capture at the same time, on my son's little Mac computer. So anyway, welcome to travel reporting, and just a few things to introduce the course. This is kind of like the first day where you show up and the professor tells you all about the course and how wonderful it's going to be and everything you need to know. And that's especially important in a summer course because it's condensed, right? So I mean, usually professors might take out a few assignments because we don't have as much time, but also you're kind of expected to do almost twice as much work in the same amount of time. So it's really important that you understand what's going on. I have so the first time I taught this course was last fall, and I taught 2 sections of travel reporting. And so I think generally when a professor teaches a course, right for the first time, the professor usually has a lot of ideas for making it better or changing it up. So I've changed it up a fair amount. And one thing is to kind of streamline the Moodle site here to make it a little bit less confusing. So it actually, if you look at it real quickly, it doesn't look like so much is there, but I'm just trying to kind of pare it down to the essentials that you really need. Um, so another caveat here is that in general, this course would be taught for students who are traveling abroad in their junior year. And it's one of the only online only courses that was allowed to run at Loyola for many, many years, because the students were abroad and it would be nice for them to have one course that they could do kind of with more flexibility during that time. So generally it was set up for students to be writing about their experiences while they're abroad. And so the only difference is that all of you are doing different things, not necessarily abroad, but wherever you are, and you might be multiple places during the 6 weeks of this course, you have to write about your experiences, not your experiences like sitting at home, but you have to get out and go do things. So maybe you have a part-time summer job and you can write about some of the experiences you have in the job, or maybe you have an internship, you can write a couple stories about that. You can write some stories about maybe some restaurants you go to or museums you go to, or going out at night to see a band or going to a club, or going hiking, going on a little road trip with a friend or a family. So whatever you're doing during these 6 weeks, those are the things you write about when you're going out and having new experiences. Is the main thing, and this is nonfiction writing. So it's about things that happen to you, and there's many different things you could write about, and that's one thing that we'll talk about. So let me go real quick and give you an orientation for the course. As you can see here, we have the basic schedule for the whole course. So and I've given kind of more specific instructions for week 1 and week 2, and then kind of some other deadlines as we go along. Generally, the course is set up so that there are a few deadlines, but in general, you can do the activities based on your own schedule. There are a number of things to get done in this first week, again, because it's compressed, but really not that much. So you need to set up your personal travel blog. So that's the main place where you're posting your actual travel journalism, travel writing in the blog of your choice, the blog platform. So that could be Tumblr, it could be WordPress.com, it could be Blogger, Could be Blogspot. I think those would be the 4 main ones. There's others, so there's many different platforms that you could choose. But you have to decide which one you want to use and go ahead and set that up. Um, and I'll get to some of these other ones in a second. So one of the most important things to do is this week is to click on the syllabus link here and download it and just read it and familiarize yourself with it. It has everything is in there. I don't think the schedule here is in the syllabus, but everything in terms of how the grading works and what the main assignments are. This computer is having some problems opening up, but also pretty much everything you also need to know is in the Moodle site itself. So that's also kind of like the syllabus. So in terms of major assignments, let's go through that. Okay, so the main thing here, let's see if we scroll down, is the blog posts. Those are actually in the syllabus. So these are the other major assignments are the reading and summary exercises. So one of the things we want you to do in this course is not just do your own writing, but to learn what, see examples of good travel writing in general. We want you to read other people's. Now, you're going to do critiques of other students' writings in the course, so other students, but we want you to go out and read professional quality and also kind of like pro amateur type writers and what they're doing and writing about in travel reporting. So we have 2 links here to World Hum and besttravelwriting.com. And those are places where lots of really good examples of travel writing are always being posted. So you do 6 summaries total. So that means you choose 6 individual stories. You could be a couple stories by the same writer or not, and do little summaries of them. And you're going to post them to a discussion group, and I'll get to that in a second. And then the other thing, and one thing I've noted, I think, elsewhere, is when you do these, I want you to do 2 at a time. So you read 2 stories, and you put those summaries and you post them. So they're 1 post for 2. So that means you're only going to really have 3 reading summary posts, and that just makes it easier for the other people in your group. So if you had 6 for each person, it just gets to be lots of posts. So if you could do 2 per entry, that would be great. You could even do more. You could do 2 posts that have 3 summaries in each post. And then the people in your group will, at least for each person, so most groups will have 5 people in the group. So that means there's going to be 4 people in my group. So for each one of those people, just one time when they post some of their reading summaries, I'll respond. And the response is, I don't necessarily have to go and read everything, all those stories myself, but I want to kind of more interact with what you're talking about. So if you're talking about how this one story had a really good, rich description, or had a really interesting use of comedy, or use of first-person narrative, and that makes me think more about my writing or some other good writing that I've read, that I can kind of engage you in a conversation in that way. So that's what I mean when I say here 4 times you should read another group member summary and respond. And then yeah, and so like right here I have that as well. This page here just also kind of goes down through what you're expected to do or how you'll be graded. So for example, right here, so the blog is 60 points out of 100 total points in the whole course. Okay, so the blog posts, those actual travel writing posts on your personal blog, you need a minimum of 14 posts. So this is like the lion's share of the of the work that you're doing this semester. And this is one area where I haven't really pared it down from the normal semester course. The number of reading and writing exercises are majorly cut down, more than half. But the one thing I haven't changed is having at least 14 of your own travel writing posts, and that's because that's the main thing you're supposed to be doing is having experience, writing about your experiences, and hopefully getting better as a writer in that way. And this is the breakdown here of how I will be grading those. Um, I will be giving feedback through your discussion groups and occasionally through an individual email. But the total the grading for those won't happen until the end. Um, and you will know how you're doing. I would say the grading isn't super harsh. The idea is that you're supposed to be doing the work, and so to a certain extent, the grade is very participatory. So if you're putting a lot of effort into it, into first of all, when I do give comments and when other people in your critique group give comments, paying attention to those and making your writing better, then those are the things that I'm going to be paying attention to. Obviously, if you're not doing the minimum, so if you're not you by the end of the semester, if you haven't done 14 of those, and if you haven't done all the reading and writing exercises, that is when your grade would see a big drop. But the most important thing, if you're concerned about grade, is just to make sure you hit all of those the deadlines and the minimums as well. For last semester, I had most of my students were in the 15 or 16 range. So if you did 14 really good blog posts and you improved throughout the semester based on comments, then that would be, you could potentially get an A. So you can get an A. I'd say it's easier to get an A in this major assignment, the blog post, if you do more than that. And there's a couple other ways, things that I'm going to tell you about that you could push up, to make sure that you're doing the best in terms of if you want to get the grade. Obviously, hopefully you're also doing your best to try to get the most out of the course. I'm going to talk about the blog critique in more detail. The only other thing I want to mention here is the writing exercises. The writing exercises are one thing you do completely on your own. There's a Word document that you download, and each of the 10 exercises has a specific a task to do that just help you to start thinking about ways to describe experiences, ways to come up with topics, to make your writing better. And so they're kind of just like exercises in that way, just as if you wanted to get in better shape, you would do a certain number of sit-ups and pull-ups and running a certain amount of miles and stretching, certain things like that. Well, these are exercises just to kind of get your writing juices flowing, but also to improve. And these can totally be done 100% on your own. Looks like right here I made a mistake. So I changed this event at one point, or last fall, there were 20 of them. And then at first when I revised the course, I said, okay, this is going to be 15, but I decided to pare it down even more. There's only going to be 10 exercises, to make that clear. So when you click on the link for the Word document to download, there's 10 of them to do. And you can do that totally on your own time. It just has to be submitted by the end of the semester, these writing exercises. And that's one thing that when I looked at my course evaluations, some of the students said, well, we really enjoyed all the writing, but in terms of the blog writing, but the writing exercises kind of seemed like a little bit too much in the reading too, so in terms of the reading summary. So I kind of tried to pare those down in terms of the student comments as well. Okay, so another thing in terms of the discussions. Okay, so the first thing I want you to do, other than look in the syllabus, and again, I'm going back to this week 1 here. So read the syllabus. You're watching this video, which is like going to the first day of class and hearing what the class is all about. And then I want you to, doesn't have to be today, in the next couple of days, sign up for a discussion group via the sign up wiki, okay? And then after you do that, and this will be later on this week, I'll activate this, you'll introduce yourself to the discussion group via voice thread before June 4th. So that's next week. All right, so There's going to be I wouldn't say a lot of work, but more the interaction aspect of the course where you're interacting with other students and with myself is going to be through these discussion forums and through a voice thread. So that would be right here. So all the group stuff, it's under small group activities here. Um, they will, the discussion forums will be right here. So you don't see it right yet, but I'm going to create a discussion forum for each group, okay? And so I've created 4 groups. And again, the purpose, so we have 18 people in the class, so sometimes if you have one discussion forum and you have 18 people like posting reading summaries and doing critiques, it gets really crazy. Um, so instead what we're going to do is we're going to have these 4 discussion groups, and each group is going to have either 4 or 5 people in it, so maximum of 5. And so in these names here are just to make it better than like Group A, Group B, or Group 1, 2, 3. So it's Group Gray, Group Green, Group Chesapeake, and Group Metro. So it doesn't matter which group. If you see someone, a name on there of someone you know, or you can look at the enrolled students in the course through Moodle, and if you know someone, then you can text them and say, hey, let's be in the same group. That's fine with me. So to sign up, you just click here, and you can see right now there's 5 possible slots here. No one has signed up, okay, for this group. And I've given you an example of what to put. So you would put your name here, your year at Loyola. So if you're a junior, you say junior if you want to say what dorm you live in, your major, and then the most important thing, and this should be a few sentences long, where it says this summer, tell us what you're going to do this summer. So I put, like as my example, I will be teaching this course and spending time with my family. I mostly will be in Maryland until July when we're going to Michigan. So, if you're going to be a couple different places, or if you're doing like an internship, but also you're going to be doing some day trips here and there, whatever it is, so that people in your group can start to realize the type of things you might be writing about. So anyway, if you come here and there's 3 people, then you can add your name. If it's already full, then you can click over to Pages, and you can choose one of these other groups. So again, it's just you randomly kind of deciding to be part of one of these groups. Okay, so that's one thing I want you to do in the next few days, just to sign up for a group. Okay, so coming back to small group activities. So again, once I know what the groups are, I will create a discussion forum for each one of these groups. So there'll be 4 in total. So it'll say group grade discussion forum. And this will be where you post your reading summaries, and where you're reading other pro-am examples of travel writing, and then you're having discussions about them. So that'll be the main focus of the discussion forums, or the reading assignments, reading summaries. And then the other thing that we'll be doing is you'll be in the same groups, you'll be critiquing each other's works, okay? And that's where VoiceThread comes in. So VoiceThread is a tool to be able to use to do short videos, where you would do kind of like I am here. This one is pretty long, but you meant 2 or 3 minutes where you talk about some topic. So it's kind of like a professor could upload a whole PowerPoint lecture, and for each slide you could chime in and say, oh, here's a comment or here's a question. So I just did an example here. So I'll create 4 of these, but this is the example for group grade, introduction and critiques VoiceThread. So yeah, I was having a little bit of technical difficulty. So for VoiceThread, to start off with, it's important to know or to be able to, for VoiceThread to recognize you as being a Loyola student. So just make sure you click here first. I said click here to log in, and once you're logged into Moodle, you click here, and it should recognize. Okay, so it says, okay, J Lily. Okay, so we're good. And so once it understands who I am, and it should do this automatically. Um, then you should be able to come to your group. So okay, so I'm going to say that I signed up for group gray, and I'm going to click on this, cross your fingers. Looks like it's working. Okay, yeah, so up here we have group gray, introduction and critique. So I'm going to create um, a series of simple slides for each group. Okay, so you're going to click on it, group gray. So for each one of these slides, every student can make a comment. So for this first one here, I say, everyone introduce yourself on this first slide. So this is what I want you to do by June 4th, is introducing yourself to the group. And basically what you're saying is focusing on information about what you're going to be doing and where you're going to be at this in the next 6 weeks. So that's why I say talk about where you are and will be and what you'll be doing this summer and your initial ideas for travel reporting articles. So to do this, I click on this plus sign down here, and you can do voice only. I prefer that you do a video just so that other people in your group can see your face, and you know, it's a human thing to want to see a face. It's one of the reasons why I have this video of me here to see that there's real humans in this course, right? So I'm going to click on this. Now I'm not sure if this is going to work here right now because my camera is being used right now by QuickTime, and I'm not sure if it can be used in multiple applications. Yeah, I don't think so. Okay, well maybe. Oh, it looks like it is. Okay. Okay, so yeah, so right now it's recording my voice. You can see down here it says stop recording. And so we're looking just like over a few minutes of you talking about what's going on, your initial ideas, type of things you might or you're planning to do. So I'm going to be going down to Assateague this weekend to camp with my some friends who have kids the same age as my kids, and I'm thinking about writing one article about the history of Assateague, and then write another one on what people can do if they decide to camp there for a few days and some of the highlights. And so those are what I'm thinking about for my first two articles. And then you would go on and say some other things you're thinking about doing, like some experiences you might have. And you can, if you're not quite sure about them, if they would lend themselves to good article ideas, then you can be honest with that because you're just sharing with your group. And I'm going to hit stop recording here. You can see it says it's uploading. And then looks like it is. Okay. Okay, so there it is. So okay, so I'm gonna pause it. So eventually, by June 4th, and if there's 5 people in the group, then there should be 5 of these individual little voice threads added to this particular slide. Okay, I'm gonna hit save. And actually, it's gonna. I put a thumbnail when I first joined VoiceThread years ago. I had this goofy picture of my son there. So it'll show whatever your thumbnail is. If you don't add one, then it'll show like a silhouette of a person. Okay, so that's the first slide. So down here in the right-hand corner is where you can advance between slides. So what I'll do is I'll create a slide for every person in your group. So there'll be that introduction slide where you start on June 4th, and then once you have a few articles on your blog and you're ready for the other people in your group to read them and give you a critique, then you say that in the group discussion forum. And so Sally Smiles here, who's a made-up student, could say on the discussion forum, "Hey guys, I have 3 articles up on my blog, and here's the URL to my blog, and will you please read them and give me your critique in VoiceThread?" So she should come that same week when she, or maybe the next day after she announced she's ready for critiques, and she should start. Let's see, right here where I say next, Sally, she should come and post her video talking about her articles, what she was trying to achieve, and maybe some of the highs and lows. So maybe she was like really proud of this one aspect of a couple of the articles, but she's struggling with something else. So you should be honest. And these critiques are, I'm not sure if you've had critiques in art class before or a writing class, but the idea is to get taught, just to get a discussion flowing so that the writer or the artist or whoever's being critiqued can be reflective and can think how to be better. So we're not looking for it to trash anyone at all. That's completely inappropriate. But just to offer constructive ideas. And the person being critiqued might disagree. I mean, you might say, well, I didn't like that part where that aspect of humor, and then they might come back and say, well, I feel like the humor, I was trying to lighten up the subject for this reason or that reason. So it's a dialogue. And then after she posts here a video just talking about the article she's written so far, then every other member of her group should come in and do a short video, and not too long, like 2, 3, 4 minutes long. You might want to have some notes sitting next to you to get ready to do critique, and then you offer the critique just like you would in a face-to-face class. So that's why we're using VoiceThread. And then, like, if we go on here, I created just like, so if the next student is Bruce Jones. So it all depends. So I'll create a slide that has a placeholder for each student in that group. And then it's up to you all for that student to say, okay, I'm ready to do the critique and to get that ball rolling. So it's the other people's, and it is part of your participation credit that you did give a critique to just the people in this discussion group. So it should just be 3 or 4 other people in the group that you have to critique. Okay, so that, hopefully that makes sense. If you're confused about it, then we'll go over it again. Let me get back to my course. Okay, so getting back to the schedule. So by week 2, so generally by the weeks, I will send an email reminder on Sunday night or Monday sometime saying this is generally what should be going on. Like I said, since it was originally designed for study abroad, one of the things that Dr. King and other people that designed the course, that there's a lot of flexibility in it. So not too many deadlines. Now, it might seem to you like there are a fair number of deadlines. Again, the course is compressed. So when I would say week 2, I'm talking about the week that kind of starts with, I guess it's June 4th. You should, by that point, be starting your reading exercise. So in particular, like I said, the writing exercises they have to be turned in at the last day. So at the bottom here, it says all work due by July 11th. So that's when ultimately you have to drag your writing exercises into the Dropbox. The reading exercises are a little bit more important because other people have to chime in and have a discussion about it. So next week you should get going with that. And you need to have your first blog article by the Monday after that, on June 11th. And you could have 2 or 3 at that point. That's fine. I mean, you can get rolling right now with writing some of these blog posts. Then by the reading summaries, I want them to be and discussions to be done by the middle of June, just so that we can get the ball rolling. And also, the critiques need to be done closer to the end. So again, since these involve participation with other people through VoiceThread, it'd be fine if you got them rolling by the middle of June. Here's another deadline by June 25th to have basically 6 of your articles, almost half of them done. Again, at that point, you could have 8 or 7. That's fine. And then everything needs to be handed in by June 11th. So that means handed in for the blog post. That means they're on your blog. And so yeah, I mean, the course structure is fairly simplistic. I tried to pare it down some. But if you're confused, then by all means watch this video again, and then also you can. The main way to contact me with the professor is through email. I'm on email regularly. I mean, if I'm making my kids dinner or something like that, then you might not get an email until a response for a few hours or the next morning or something like that. Like I said, this weekend I am going to be camping at Assateague with my family. But I mean, I assume I should be able to get cell phone reception, so I should be able to see my emails. I'm not quite sure if that'll be the case or not. Okay, a couple other things. So again, the writing exercises, those 10 exercises you need to do whenever you want. Here is the Word doc to look at that. Here are the 2 links for the readings summaries. So these are examples of really good travel writing that are curated. So you can look at either of these to do, and again, you have to do 6 total summaries. That means 6 individual articles that you've read and written a little summary about like what the story is about and what you like or didn't like about it. So more examples, and these are just for you to look at. So here's some from last fall, some examples of some of the blogs that some of my students did. I'll open up a couple of them here just to see the. So this one would be done in WordPress.com. And WordPress, you can choose a lot of different examples of templates. Even though this is a writing course, writing heavy, we're in a age of proliferation of media, right? So there should be a lot of visuals associated. So that means you taking photos and also links. So let's say you go to a tourist destination, like you go out to Cherry Point or something like that, Coney Island. Then, and you mentioned some facts about it, historical facts. So you want to have some links for the readers to get even more information. Links in the text. Now, this is one thing that some of my students this fall didn't do as well, is providing that kind of additional information. This is a great photo here. And this is what a typical post would look like. Again, in whatever platform you use, you can change the template so that the text itself looks different to make it easier to add in photos. Like this one here doesn't seem to have a lot of photos and doesn't have any links. Now it doesn't mean that I'm going to, again, I don't individually grade each one of these. I look at the totality. And if this was one of the first articles, then in my my reaction to the student, I might say, well, or to all the students might be like, a lot of you aren't adding links to additional information. So for example here, if she had this highlighted, this could go to the link for information for students at this particular university. This example of a blog post might not be the best for having lots of links anyway. So it's not necessarily, it depends on how it's applicable. Let's see. Let me look at another one. Okay, Natalie, if I remember right, chose a template that really showcases all the great photos that she took. Yeah. So here, each one of these is kind of a entryway into one of her articles. So it's very visual, which is great. Let's see. Let me just randomly choose one here. And she took a lot of really good photos, and so most of her articles had lots of photos in them. This particular template really showcases it, so you can see, we start with this great visual here of a photo she took. Oh, here we have a link. That's great. We have some more photos here. Um, yeah, so this is what I would be kind of looking for. Again, there might be some type of topics where maybe it's like they're not so visual, but I think most of the things, experiences you would have, there's lots of opportunities to take photos and to put them in. Um, the, take again, this is not a photography class, but use this as a excuse to get better at your smartphone photography. Um, okay, so one more thing I wanted to mention is here, the last two things here, I have examples of Adobe Spark stories. So Adobe Spark is a platform that you can use to tell one particular story. You could even use that as the platform for your blog. But what I've done in this class, I've told students that you'll get some extra credit kind of opportunities or like kind of extra boost to your grade if you do one or more of your blog stories. So again, you have to have a minimum of 14. If you do really one or more of them using Adobe Spark, which is going to be kind of pushing your visual storytelling skills, then you'll get a boost in your grade. You could even choose Spark as your overall platform. That would be fine. So let me give you an example of what a Spark story would look like. It's just designed to be able to integrate videos and in photos a lot better. So there's certain type of topics that might not be like. So what if you were talking about? I'm trying to think something that wouldn't lend itself to visual storytelling. But like for example, one of the students or a couple of the students talked about what it was like being in their classes abroad, and it very different than being at Loyola. And so that's one. I mean, what are you going to put? Photos of your professor? I'm not sure like what you would put to make it a visually savvy storytelling. But others, when you're going out and about, can very much lend themselves to visual storytelling. So here we have a great. So again, this is in Adobe Spark. So it's kind of like a one page. So it'll come with its own URL, dedicated URL here. So in your blog, you would just say, here's an example of, or here, I decided to tell this story using in a different platform, and you just give the link, and maybe a couple photos. So that's how you would do it. And so all of a sudden, when I go to read your blog post, I would realize, oh, this student did it in Spark. And so you still need to have a lot of writing. And so it's still a writing story. But as we scroll down here, you have photos that you can throw in that are applicable to whatever is being talked about here in the story. One thing I want to note is that, it doesn't mention it in the syllabus, is that we do want you to be using AP style. And it's not like if you ignore that, then I'm not gonna you're not gonna necessarily get a D in the course. This is not like a journalism course or advertising where they're really going to be on top of you in terms of AP style. But I do want to just mention it and throw it out there that if I notice a lot of AP style mistakes, and I'll say, look, you please go online. Here's a link to learning a little bit more about AP style if you haven't taken a course that has focused on it very much. And I'm going to ask you to get better at it. And if you completely continue still to ignore it, then you might see that represented on your final grade. So for example, this should be 7 A period M period is AP style for doing time. Okay, so anyway, yeah, so you can see that there's so many really good visuals here. You can embed videos as well. Obviously, you can put in links. And it's just it's more visually savvy way of telling a story than usually is available in most blog type formats. So I encourage you to use it. You could have an Adobe Spark page that has multiple stories on it, and that could be a platform as well. Okay, so again, if you're kind of confused about, well, what is, what are examples of what students do for travel reporting, there's 3 here where you can see 3 of the blogs and then 2 Adobe Spark story samples. Okay, and then I At a certain point, when students have already started getting like their first, second, and third blog post, I'm gonna I'm gonna read some of them and kind of take some notes and flag a few of them that I want to use as examples, and I'm gonna create a video just like this video that I'm doing right now that I kind of talk about. Here are some things that some students are doing that are great in terms of writing, in terms of use of dialogue, in terms of storytelling. And then here are certain things that maybe are trends that some people need to work on in general. And then also I will show examples of some of the really good like blog formats and writing that have been done so far, and I'll post them here. So I'll do that at least once or twice, and then in my weekly email I'll note that there's a video here in this section for you to look at. And then like if people aren't doing a great job of linking or adding photos or things like that, then I'll mention that here. So it won't be like a really detailed individual critique, but overall here's some trends that are showing up. And the last thing at the bottom here is this is where you will do your writing assignment, drop it in the Dropbox. See, it has the wrong date here. By the end of the semester, and then the last thing is the final project. So the final project is, you have two options. Either you could do another blog post. So let's say the minimum is 14 stories, right? But you would add one more. So that would be, last semester I had one or two students who thought that they could do 13 stories and then one more would add to 14. So this is totally not part of the 14. So you would have 14 or more. And then for your final project, you can choose to do one more blog post, a travel writing post that's even longer. So I asked for it to be closer to 1,000 words. So it would be more in depth. So you have to come up with a type of story that you really feel like you can really go deep into a history or to really deep into a dialogue or story or whatever that topic is. Or you can do something that's more reflective. And let me give you the example of that under major assignments. So if you're kind of at the end of the semester, you're starting to get maybe a little tired of the travel writing, then you can do something that's a little bit more academic. So you can do a 1,000-word reflection on travel blogging as a medium for processing cultural or social diversity and contemplating social justice and awareness. So maybe you decided, maybe you're working at Starbucks this summer, and so the issue of racial profiling that they are dealing with now, maybe it came up a lot with you at work, and you were really thinking about it, and you wanted to write about it in more of a kind of academic but also reflective way based on your experiences that you had in this job, then that would be something that you could reflect on it and write about this as a social justice issue. And then you add it to the Dropbox, so only I will read that. So that's something where you can not worry about anyone but the professor reading your thoughts on this particular topic. So that would be one option. The other option, like it says down here, it's a more substantive blog post that you posted to your blog. So it is part of a separate grade. It's not part. So it's a 10 points of total 100 points in the whole course, as opposed to the 14 plus articles, blog articles, which are 60 points of the grade. Okay, so anyway, I feel like I've gone on a little bit too long here, but again, it's kind of like coming to the first day of class. If you have any questions, like I said, just hit me an email. If you are struggling and want like a kind of more individual session to go over your writing, then you would just email me and we could set up like a FaceTime or something like that, and we could talk, or even a phone call, and we can talk about whatever you want to talk about over the phone or through a video chat. So that's always an option. Again, to start out, first figure out what blog platform you want to use and start your blog. And you will let me and the other students know about that through your discussion forums. So once the groups get populated down here, then each one will have a discussion forum, and that's where you say, hey, I started my new blog, here's the URL, and you'll net me, because I have access to all these too, and your other group members know. And again, probably the first thing to do, other than watching this video and reading the syllabus, are to come into here and to sign up for your discussion group. And then the voice thread will happen later this week, and I'll send another email reminding you about that, where you introduce yourself to the group through voice thread. Okay, so choose one of these 4 groups: Gray, Green, Chesapeake, or Metro. Again, if you happen to look through, you can go through the administrator and you can see who the other people are in the course. If you know someone, then you can text them and you can arrange to be in the same group. But you have to be among the first 5 to join the group. Okay, so that's Professor Lilly signing off. Again, if you have any questions, let me know. Send me an email, and you'll probably have a couple more emails from me this week. So hope you enjoy the class, enjoy the summer, enjoy writing, and I'll talk to you, email you, see you on VoiceThread